My first dog, Man Ray, would come to my studio and he would emit these high-frequency pitched noises when I wasn't staring at him, working at him, talking to him, doing something. So as soon as I pointed the camera at him, he became a phenomenal, interesting dog.
I adopted a dog and I had no affinity for this animal whatsoever. He would hide under my bed, and it was the first time in my life I felt like I had a monster under my bed, because he would try to bite me when I tried to lure him out of it.
Yeah.
So I think I was just scared of my dog.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how I would describe this special thing that we have. It's sort of like she's a very loving and very needy roommate or something.
I had just lost my dog, who was a mature adult, who I'd come to think was far wiser than me and more soulful and I suppose more parental in a way.
It was my first experience of her in this condition, and I was enchanted. That small, dark bud, her vulva, became gradually swollen and more noticeable amid the light gray fur of her thighs as she walked ahead of me, and sometimes it would set up, I supposed, a tickle or a trickle, for she would suddenly squat down on the road and fall to licking it.
Why, as a writer, is he saying this? Is it partly to see if you find this shocking, or is he so absorbed in the process that he didn't find it the least bit surprising? Because I was actually taken aback. I thought, my God, I mean, that's...
I was surprised at how, talking about anal glands, things that, if you do have dogs, you know about.
Well, as this old fuddy-duddy is parsing each step of glands and vulva and the pink, I thought he got a little excited, but that's just me.
One of the things I found so interesting about it was, in comparison with other dog books I've read, it gave a respectful distance, I think, to the psychology of the dog. Ackerley wasn't projecting himself, it felt like, into the dog's mind or trying to think how he would feel if he were the dog.
See, I didn't see it that way. I thought he was anthropomorphizing Tulip way too much. Yeah. I found the book to be on the fringe of canine pornography. I felt he was totally in love with Tulip. Tulip was his mate, his partner, his beloved.
In his memoir, I guess he talks about trying to find a man, and he describes trying to find what he calls the ideal friend, someone who will just be a sort of a life partner.
I actually tried to read it without his homosexuality in mind and see if I see it as meant to be a metaphor. And I didn't see it that way. I really felt it was about two things. His relationship with the dog, which remains in this strange, half-magical world that it's a perfect yet unrequited relationship. But it was also about physicality and lust. Beyond that, I've begun to think that it's a forced metaphor, at least for me. Because in a way, everybody's trying to find a perfect relationship. I don't think of that as uniquely gay. I mean,
I don't think it's a metaphor as much as it is a stand-in, as it is for most of us with dog relationships,
I love the book. I especially the turn of the screw, that chapter just made me kind of love it for some reason.
I think he's a fantastic writer. Just as an aside, he's a great craftsman. And he's an odd character.
What I loved about the ending of the book is it didn't draw necessarily any life lessons about human relationships from his dog's relationship. It was a human-dog relationship, which was his own thing that he was a little bit mystified by at the end.
There's something very touching to me, I think, about particularly the end of the book.
Yeah, that last chapter is sort of haunting a little bit too, and it's a sort of admission of his powerlessness. I feel like if I were to say a word like owner or master, it feels totally false in some way, because there's a lot about her I just don't understand, and I think there's a lot about me that she doesn't understand.